And I want to welcome everyone to Loyola Law School. With the start of the academic year, the sixth special hearing, we're going to try to pick a Friday that would work here. And if not, we will move facilities and we'll provide a lot of notice where that would be. I'm hoping by the end of this hearing for our special counsel, I can have a date that works for you so we can announce it. But in the meantime, I think that we should get started. The agenda says the first thing is for us to do the roll call.
Commissioner Bonner?
Here.
Commissioner Cooper? Commissioner Garcia?
Here.
Commissioner Giggins?
Here.
Commissioner Harris? Vice Chair Hicks? Commissioner Rubin? Chair Kennedy?
Here. This being August and not a regularly scheduled meeting, several commissioners had vacation conflicts, so we're a little slimmer than usual, but we have the same plug, so we're going to just begin anyway. Mr. Deixler, it is time to bring up any issues, and after that we can discuss a subpoena issue, and then we can call your witnesses if you like.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. I'd like to start as usual with the procedural rigmarole that we've all lived through. Today we're going to have just 3 witnesses. 2 witnesses are going to be in person. A 3rd witness is going to testify anonymously on the computer screen for reasons that will become clear from the testimony of that witness. We had expected to have 2 more witnesses today. One witness who had quite substantial relevant testimony told me on Wednesday night that for reasons of fear of intimidation and retribution, that she was unwilling to testify. Now I'm optimistic that with the passage of some time that the witness will change and be willing to come and testify. In addition, we hope to put on some statistical evidence today, and we're still crunching those numbers so that we can be certain of their accuracy and probative value. I did want to make sure to introduce Ariel Newman and Ashley Bowman, who are 2 of our pro bono special counsel who are here today and who are going to be playing an important role going forward with the remaining hearings and the report writing that I understand is going to be required of our group. I think that covers the information I needed to convey, and I leave it to you to tell me when we should call our witnesses.
Okay, Mr. Deixler, I just want to make sure. So our lawyers are Aaron Bowman and Ashley Newman.
Ashley Bowman and Ariel Newman of the Bert Morella firm.
Thank you so much for assisting the commission in this hearing. We really appreciate it. There is an issue of subpoena. We served a subpoena duces tecum on the custodian records of the sheriff's. I think it was returnable. I don't remember the date.
August the 5th, I think.
August the 5th. And it was not complied with. And the question is, where do we go from here? Commissioner Bonner, do you?
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Chair. Yeah, basically, it was pointed out to us by county counsel that the subpoena duces tecum that we issued was not accompanied by a declaration of good cause. And I think there's an argument that since we're one government entity subpoenaing another government entity in the same county, that we don't need that. But nonetheless, counsel was concerned with the enforceability of our subpoena without a declaration of good cause. And so I believe it's prudent for us in this circumstance, since in all probability, we will need enforcement of the subpoena for documents that relate to, among other things, the potential obstruction of justice of the Kennedy Hall investigation. It would be prudent to have one. So County Counsel has assisted us in developing a declaration of good cause. By the way, which I've edited a bit. But nonetheless, at this point, I think the action should be to withdraw our previously issued subpoena, and we would notify, of course, the sheriff and the sheriff's department of that. At the same time, we will concurrently therewith serve a new subpoena that will be subpoena duces taken, essentially for the same documents already approved by the Civilian Oversight Commission, and but it will be accompanied by a declaration of good cause. I have, by the way, prepared that document, and since the commission at a full meeting unanimously was in favor of issuing the subpoena, I don't think we need further action here. We just need to attach the declaration of good cause
I
to a
agree.
subpoena and then promptly serve it on the sheriff and the sheriff's department. So I have that for you to sign, assuming that we want to go forward with that action today.
I think that sounds, this has already been approved. We're just redoing it with the declaration showing good cause. So we don't need to have any vote.
I don't think we need any vote at all. We've been advised. We agree with the advice that council, county council has given us, and regarding enforceability. So we'll do that and hopefully serve it promptly. Now, I'm not sure we have a date. I think it's always good to have a date, a return date on a subpoena. So we'll need to put a new return date in, and that's either going to be concurrent with our next hearing, or possibly we could do it without a hearing date. I'm not sure. I would prefer, since this is a hearing, to set forth the next hearing date. And I know, by the way, when I was walking in, you were discussing that very issue, and I don't know whether we have our next hearing date fixed at this point.
We don't, but I'm hoping before we adjourn today to have that.
Okay, that's great. So we'll just insert a date and we'll be ready to go.
Mr. Deixler, I think that takes care of the subpoena issue, and if you have any witnesses, why don't we begin?
Our first witness is Jefferson Chow, and if you'll excuse me, I'll get him from the green room.
Where do I go?
Here.
Oh, thanks.
Good morning.
I'm sorry,
I'm fine. Mr. Chow, can you raise your right hand? Do you swear or solemnly affirm under penalty of perjury to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir, I do.
Good morning, sir. Would you state your name and spell your last name for the record?
My first name is Jefferson, sir. My last name is Chow, C-H-O-W. And my first name is spelled J-E-F-F-E-R-S-O-N.
And how are you testifying? Are you testifying today pursuant to a subpoena issued by the commission?
Yes, sir, I am.
And how are you employed?
I'm in LA County Sheriff's Department. I'm a sergeant for the department at Homicide Bureau as an investigator.
And how long have you been employed by the Sheriff's Department?
26 years.
And would you just briefly describe what your current duties are for the LASD?
Sir, basically, I'm an investigator for people that have murdered, suicides, a lot of tragic things will happen, and a lot of times we will go and solve murders and officer-involved shootings. It's pretty sad.
How long have you been detailed to the Homicide Bureau?
Sir, I'm new. I've been there for 8 months.
What were your duties in the LASD in the fall of 2018?
Sir, I was assigned to Internal Criminal Investigations Brill, ICIB. I will conduct criminal investigations on department members.
And I'm going to ask that what was previously marked as Exhibit 4 be placed on the board. And I'd ask you to take a look at the document, which is now in plain view on the big screen, and ask you generally, is that the log you maintained as part of your investigative work for the ICIB?
Yes, sir, it is.
And what was the purpose of the log that you maintained for the ICIB investigation work?
The purpose is for when I write my supplemental report at the end, or while I'm doing the investigation, I'll be writing my some of my interviews, my actions, what was told to me. Also, it's for my notes, for just in case, so that I remember certain things that are odd or anything like that.
Was it a document that you maintained in the ordinary course of your business?
Yes, sir, it is.
And did you participate in the investigation of the beating at Kennedy Hall?
Yes, sir, it is.
And would you, for the commission, briefly describe how you conducted that investigation?
Sir, I responded to the scene, we got the call. I got there, we went to the scene, we tried to talk to the victims. They wouldn't talk to me. Eventually they did comply and talk to me with an attorney present. They gave me statements. I tried to obtain video footage from the incident. I tried to get phone records. I tried to get video footage of the incident itself. I was unable to. I did over excess of 90 interviews in the course of a 7-month period. That includes detail in the report, which was pretty lengthy.
In the course of your investigation, did you conclude that it was appropriate to determine whether there was a role of a deputy subgroup in connection with the Kennedy Hall incident?
Yes, sir, it was.
And is a deputy subgroup also sometimes referred to as a deputy clique?
It could be, sir.
Yeah.
It's up to interpretation for each person.
Yeah. Why did you believe investigating
Wait a
the
minute,
involvement of a deputy?
Excuse me, I missed that answer. I'm just.
Would you repeat your answer?
It's up to
The person's interpretation.
a personal interpretation, but whose interpretation?
For me, it's a clique or just a group of people, sir. Group of deputies.
All right, but you have heard the term deputy cliques, right?
Yes, sir, I have.
And you've heard the term deputy cliques applied to, among others, I assume, the bandidos?
Yes, sir.
And you've heard that term applied to the executioners?
Yes, sir.
You've heard that term applied to, I don't know, you've been there 26 years, the cavemen?
I've heard that, yes, sir.
Yeah, and you've heard that term applied to the Grim Reapers?
Yes, sir.
All right, so when we use deputy cliques, you'll understand this to mean exclusionary subgroups within the sheriff's department that have existed on and off over the years, over the decades.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Dexter.
With that background, why do you believe investigating the involvement of a deputy clique was appropriate?
Sir, to find out the motive.
And why is that important in the investigation of potential criminal behavior?
To give a full understanding of why the incident occurred.
Would you take a look at Exhibit 4, page number 4, the entry for November 9th, 2018 at 15:30? Could you read into the record the portion of that exhibit number 4, page number 4, which begins at also Lieutenant Chevalier?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm looking for it.
It's 3 items from the bottom.
Okay. Read it, sir.
Yes, starting
Okay.
also.
Also, Lieutenant Chevalier advised me OIG wanted additional questions about the subculture groups at East LA. Captain Burson confirmed additional questions needed to be asked.
And did you make that entry?
Yes, sir, I did.
And was that entry truthful at the time you made it?
It is
Do you have
still
any-
truthful, sir.
Still truthful, that's what I'm going to ask you. There's no reason to believe that in any way it's false, it's been changed, it's amended.
No, sir.
Okay. Did you, in fact, receive the instructions that were reported?
Yes.
Would you look at Exhibit 4, page number 5, the entry for November 27th, 2018 at 1300 hours?
Let me read out, sir.
Yes, if you would read that into the record.
Canceled interviews due to due to captain/chief person. He wanted to make sure I did not have to ask questions about subculture groups at East Lake Station. Worked on another case due to the statute date is coming up.
Okay, and was that an entry that you made?
Yes, sir, it is.
And was that entry truthful at the time you made it?
Yes, sir. it still
Did
is.
you receive the instructions that are recited in that portion of exhibit number 4?
Yes, sir.
Is there any reason to think that any portion of that instruction that is memorialized there is untrue?
No, sir.
Has the record been changed in any way?
No, sir.
Would you take a look, please, at page 5 of Exhibit 4, the entry for December 7th, 2018 at 9 a.m.? And would you read that into the record?
Received the go-ahead to start interviewing witnesses for the case. Also, the chief person informed me that I do not need to ask questions about the subculture group at East Lake Station. Spoke to attorney Sherry Lawrence, representing, and declined to be interviewed.
And did you make that entry, sir?
Yes, sir, I did.
And is that a truthful recital of the instruction you had received?
Yes, sir, it is.
And in each instance that we have gone over, did you follow the instructions that were given to you?
Yes, sir, I did.
And why did you follow those instructions?
Sir, we're a paramilitary agency, sir.
And what do you mean by that?
We follow orders of chain of command.
And in this particular case, it had been your starting point that it would have been helpful or wise to investigate the existence of subgroups, cliques, or similar exclusion organizations. Is that true?
True.
Notwithstanding what you believe to be the case, you followed those orders. Is that also true?
Yes, sir.
By the way, the subgroup we're talking about, as Judge Bonner established, is the Banditos in this case. Is that correct?
Correct.
Based upon your investigation, did you conclude that this was just a drunken brawl, a mutual combat, or did you believe it was something more serious?
My personal belief, something more serious.
And did you believe that it should have been filed as a criminal case?
Yes, sir, I do.
And why was that?
Sir, it's amongst the fight amongst deputy sheriffs. We shouldn't be fighting around.
I have no further questions. Pass the witness.
Are there any questions from the commission?
Let me ask
Yes, sir.
just one or two, Detective Chow. I've forgotten his rank at the time he gave you these. First of all, when I think he was a captain person in November, is that right? You remember his rank
I
within?
remember he was the captain of ICA. Yes, sir.
So in November 27th, when Captain Burson said no need to ask any questions about subgroups, subculture groups, meaning, of course, to you, the Banditos, did he indicate to you in any way that he was issuing that? First of all, did you consider that to be an order? A
Yes, sir.
directive? And did he indicate to you that that order was, that he had been directed by anybody else to give that order?
As far as, sir, I've never personally seen it or heard it, but I believe it came from somebody else. Yes, sir.
Okay, in other words, your impression was from talking to Captain Burson that his direction or order to you was coming from somebody above him?
Yes, sir.
And would that also be true of the directive or order that you received in December 7th, which reaffirmed the previous order that you were not to ask questions about deputy subgroups or the Banditos?
Yes, sir.
Did he, I guess I might as well ask, did he indicate anybody by name, given him that directive? Captain Burson?
You know, sir, I didn't ask those questions at that point.
Understood.
To chief or captain, I mean, I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, I guess, okay, well said. And I mean that only because you have identified the Sheriff's Department as a paramilitary organization, which follows a chain of command, and if you receive an order, you're expected to comply or obey with that order, are you not?
Yes, sir.
And if you don't, it's insubordination, isn't it?
Correct.
And you could be disciplined for it,
I could be, or fired.
or fired. I mean, discipline could include termination for insubordination,
Yes, sir, I
correct?
could.
So the first time you spoke to Captain Burson, on November 27th, he was a captain. When you spoke to him on, I said November 27th the first time, but when you spoke to him on December 7th, approximately, I guess about 10 days later, was he still a captain?
Sir, I know that the reason I put that in my entry is because at that time, we all knew inside, well, excuse me, I'm not gonna say we all knew, I knew that he was gonna become a chief, or that he was about to be a chief.
Right. And on or about December 7th or shortly thereafter, he was promoted to being a chief, was he not?
That's what I recall, sir. And that's why I documented my log, sir.
Yeah. And just so we understand how the sheriff's department works, when you go to a captain for a chief, you jump 2 ranks up, have you not?
That's a lot of ranks, sir.
Yeah. It's a little bit unusual, actually, to jump 2 ranks, isn't it, in your experience with the sheriff's department?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right. I don't have anything further.
Any questions? Mr. Chow, did you think it was weird that Captain or Chief Burson told you not to ask about whether or not the people involved in the fight were members of a deputy clique or deputy gang?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you, did you ask why he was giving you that order?
Sir, am I going to be insubordinate? Am I going to argue with him?
So you didn't feel like you could ask
I
why?
don't think I could.
Did you talk to anybody else and ask why are we not asking about their affiliation with a deputy clique or a deputy gang?
No, sir.
Do you have interactions with these clique members or deputy gang members at the department?
So I don't know who all these deputy cliques are as far as, we've mentioned, Counsel mentioned all the names of the subculture groups, but I don't know who's identified, I don't know. And as far as, I don't go around asking who are they, I don't need to. All I know is I'm a deputy sheriff and we work. And I don't care what subgroup they belong to, I don't.
Are those cliques or deputy gangs consistent with the paramilitary chain of command that you talked about?
Sir, gangs, from what I'm doing with gang, when a gang kills people, hurts people, robs people, that's a gang, sir.
Okay.
And as far as if the department members are doing such things, and they're deputy sheriffs, and they belong to that group, that's wrong. That's plain wrong. There's no excuse for that, sir.
Right, but in your experience here with the Kennedy Hall investigation, you were told by high management not to ask about affiliation with a deputy clique or a deputy, right?
Yes, sir.
And so how do you ever get to the bottom of the problem if you can't ask about it?
Sir, I did the best I could at the time.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Patty?
Thank you so much. Yeah, I just want to clarify in terms of your experience as an investigator
Yes, ma'am.
in the investigation unit, internal investigation unit. Has it happened frequently when your supervisors would kind of put a stop on the line of questioning or an angle in an investigation? Did that happen frequently, occasionally, rarely?
Ma'am, it never really did until that one point in time. That's why I documented it.
So you're saying that how many years were you in the investigation unit?
At ICIB,
Yes.
3.5 now.
So in 3.5 years there, you pretty much did your job according to the book.
Yes, ma'am.
You looked at every corner, you looked under
Every rock.
every
Yes, ma'am.
rock and you felt confident that you had the support of the department to do your job well.
Yes, ma'am.
And that you were obligated to do your job well
Yes,
as an
ma'am.
investigator. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I had just a follow-up.
Yes, sir.
I realized that ultimately, gangs or deputy gangs is both a legal term under statute and it's also a colloquial term that's sometimes used. And I'm not using that term. I'm just going to use deputy cliques with you and your understanding of deputy cliques. Let's say they don't go out and beat up people or engage in excessive force. But let's say that within a station or the county jail, and central jail, they actually dictate who's going to be assigned where. And they dictate who gets training and the like. In other words, they control those decisions. Is that good for a paramilitary organization to have that kind of thing going on?
No, sir, it's not. It's weak leadership.
And do you understand that from time to time, deputy clerks have exercised that authority or that power within a station?
I've heard, yes, sir.
You've heard about that.
Yes, sir.
And so that's fundamentally inconsistent with a chain of command that can hold people accountable and responsible if they don't follow policy or the rules, correct?
Correct, sir.
Just, I don't know, we haven't really gone into any real details on the investigation. There was you said you wrote a report of the Kennedy Hall assaultive behavior, and you said it was a lengthy report. Roughly how long, how many pages is your report? Is it like over 100 pages with the interview, with memorandums of interview and the like? Or just give me some idea of the volume of it.
Sir, narrative written, over 60, and then all exhibits and part transcripts and everything, part closer to 2,400.
And okay, and so, and you said you interviewed over 70 people.
Well, close to 90, I believe. I did
Oh,
90 interviews.
excuse me, I missed.
That's okay, sir. 90 interviews, but I had to do re-interviews from people and whatnot, but close to 90.
What if, I mean, I'll say this hypothetically, but what if members of the Bandidos at the Kennedy Hall situation were essentially beating up on another group of deputies at the East LA station who they wanted to drive out of the station? That would make it a more serious incident, would it not? Than just an assault?
Well, sir, I have to be honest with you, in my opinion, the stuff that happened was serious enough.
Yeah. Well, it was serious enough itself because you had assaults that caused serious bodily injury, correct?
Yes, sir.
But wouldn't it be even more serious if, in fact, you discovered it was a situation in which there was a deputy clique operating in the station that actually was beating up on other deputies in order to show their authority and control over the East LA station? Wouldn't that even be more serious?
Yes, sir, it would be.
Because it would reflect a culture within at least the East LA station that would be troubling, correct?
Yes, sir, it would be.
And that could be true too if you had deputy cliques existing at other stations, correct?
Could be, yes, sir.
Well, wouldn't it be true? I said could, I'd like it as possible. Wouldn't it be true if you had deputy cliques that were controlling assignments, training, and beating up other deputies that that were part of the cliques? That would be a very serious
It would be very
situation.
serious, sir. Yes, that is.
Right, nothing further. Thank you, Mr. By the way, Sergeant?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted
Don't
to make
demote,
sure.
sir.
I thought maybe you'd been promoted to lieutenant. by now.
No, sir, no.
Yeah, right. Okay,
I'm
sorry.
not the height of my career. I'm okay with that, sir.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Sergeant Chow.
Okay.
Appreciate your being here.
Thank you.
Mr. Deixler, anything else, or can we?
Nothing else for this witness, except I've been remiss in not thanking you for service to our community.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Do you have any other witness?
Yes, our next witness is Captain Angela Walton.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Can you, raise your right? I have to swear to you. Do you swear or solemnly affirm under penalty of perjury to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
May I be seated?
Yes, please.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Would you please state your name and spell your last name?
Yes, my name is Angela Walton, W-A-L-T-O-N is my last name.
And are you testifying here pursuant to a subpoena?
Yes, sir, I am,
And how are you employed?
with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department.
And how long have you been with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department?
27 years.
And what rank do you currently hold?
Captain.
And what is your responsibility as a captain in the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department?
You're the unit commander over various units. That would be patrol station or a jail or a specialized unit.
And what was the last unit that you commanded?
Court Services West Bureau, which is actually Court Services Division West Bureau.
Would you share briefly with the commission an overview of your career at the LASD?
Yes, sir. I started in 1995. I was at the academy. I graduated from the academy in 1996, at which time I went to Civil Brand Institute for Women. I was there for about a year until we moved the women over to Twin Towers Correctional Facility, at which time I stayed for a few years, and then I went to court services as a bailiff, lockup deputy. I stayed there maybe about half a year. After that time, I went to patrol to Lenox Station. I worked as a trainee. I was a Transit Service Bureau. I was assigned to TSB, however, I trained at Lenox Station. After I left Lenox Station as a trainee, I went to Transit Service Bureau for a while, and then I went on loan as well to Century Station for the cops team for about 90 days. While I was there, I received a call from a captain who basically said he was interested in me coming back to Lenox to be a training officer and wanted me to interview for that position. I interviewed, I became a TO at Lenox. I went back to Lenox Station. I stayed at Lenox Station for a little bit, probably about a year and a half, at which time I interviewed and I went to Major Crimes Bureau. And I was a detective at Major Crimes Bureau, which handles, at that time I was assigned to the Vice Unit. I also helped out the surveillance team and extraditions at times. After that, I was there about 5 years. I was promoted to sergeant, which time I went to Altadena Sheriff Station for a couple of years. And then I transferred to personnel. I was recruitment and background. I worked there as a sergeant. Then I promoted to lieutenant in 2011, and I went to PDC East, which is the ranch, Wayside. I was there for a few years until the facility was closed, and we had a job there at CRDF, is where I was assigned. And then I was at CRDF from 2013 until 2018, at which time I went to Custody Compliance Sustainability Bureau, CCSB. I was there for about a year. I was off for a little bit. I came back to that unit. And in December of 2019, I was promoted to captain, at which time I went back to CRDF as the captain. I was at CRDF until August of last year, 2021, at which time I was moved to court services, and I was there until February of this year when I'm off. I had to go off again.
Well, let me thank you for your service to our community. Can I start by asking you, Captain, in your experience, does the LASD have deputy cliques or deputy subgroups?
Yes, sir.
And has that been the case for your entire 27-year career in the LASD?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to turn your attention to the beginning of your career in patrol. If I remember correctly, your patrol assignment was at Lenox Station.
Yes, sir.
And during what period of time were you at Lenox Station?
As a trainee, I was there from the first part of 99, which is being a trainee in the field is 6 months. And then I returned in 2000, I think around 2000 is when I returned.
And at the time you were there, both in 99 as a trainee and thereafter as a training officer, was there a deputy subgroup or clique that was present at Lenox Station?
Yes, sir.
And what was the name of that deputy clique?
The Reapers.
And was it known within the station that the Reapers, that there was this deputy clique known as the Reapers?
Yes, sir.
And at the time you were familiar with the Lenox operation, was there a shot caller for the Reapers?
There was chatter of kind of who was, with the Reapers. There was chatter of who was no longer even at the station, but still had a lot of control of what was going on. And when I say when there's chatter, when you're working amongst the deputies, that's kind of, you start hearing things and you hear who's still kind of calling people or telling people what to do.
And was there a particular name that you heard at that time, a person who was calling people, although he or she was no longer at the station?
Yes, sir.
And who was that?
Larry Delmes.
Larry Delmes, is that the same Larry Delmes who was the first chief of staff for Sheriff Villanueva?
Yes, sir.
Was it a secret that the Reapers were present at Lenox Station?
I don't think it was a secret. I think, you were in patrol and you were working and you talked about, everything that's going on. You would hear things, and I don't think it was any secret to people that were there.
Did the Reapers generally work on the same shift at Lenox Station?
I think a lot of them worked on early mornings. Yes, sir.
And did you have the impression that the Reapers were basically running that early morning shift?
Somewhat, yes, sir.
And what do you mean by that?
Meaning, I think they kind of, in early mornings, there's no unit commander there. The captain is not there. You have newer supervisors that are on, and you kind of, would hear things that kind of gave the impression that they do what they want to do in early mornings. Those are kind of things that, you would hear.
Is dispatch an important responsibility in the operation of a sheriff station?
Yes, sir.
And why is that an important responsibility?
Because that is the person who basically ensures that everyone is dispatched to calls, and they want to make sure that everyone is going to the calls and that we're serving the community, we're serving, the people, as well as we're handling what we need to handle.
Were the Reapers significantly involved in dispatch in Lenox during the time that you were both a trainee and a training officer?
At times there were, yes.
And did that increase their influence in the station?
I believe so.
You earlier testified that you were approached at one point by a captain and urged to seek a position as a training officer. Do you recall approximately when that approach came from the captain?
2000 maybe, somewhere in 2000.
And did you in fact apply for the position of training officer?
I didn't want to, but I did, yes.
And notwithstanding your desires, were you able to attain that position at least on an interim basis?
I did, sir, yes.
Did you learn what some of your colleagues at Lenox thought about your remaining as a training officer at Lenox Station?
I did.
Would you please describe for the commission the reception that you received from your professional colleagues at Lenox Station when it became apparent that you'd be a training officer?
Well, when I went to Lenox, I went back to Lenox as a training officer, I requested to have a trainee that was just coming out of custody, so it kind of just, we wouldn't have to have anything that was elaborate that we'd have to handle. I wanted someone that was new from custody. I explained that to the captain. He was okay with it, as well as the training and scheduling. So I had my first trainee was an older gentleman. When I say older, he was, I was a little bit older than him. And I would allow him to eat. And I would allow him, he had a young kid at home. And so we worked PM shift, and I allowed him to sometimes call his child to make sure his child was okay. And I didn't have any problem with that, because we're here to just do a job. I need you to be able to do the work. And so one day we come out of briefing, and I don't know if it was this training or the other training that I had after him, because I don't really recall, it's been so long, exact time period. But one of the persons that I deemed to be a Reaper approached me and said, "Hey, Angela, have your trainee ride with my partner." He didn't have a trainee that day, and he said, "And I want you to come and ride with me." And I said, "Okay." So he got in the car with me, I drove, and we drove to Chester, Washington Golf Course. Backed in, it was the back way. It's off of 120th, I think, in Normandy. It's just south of the 105 freeway by Southwest College. And he told me, take off your radio. Do you have any recordings on your phone? All of this. And I don't remember if we put it on the hood of the car or the trunk. I mean, I don't know where we put it, but I didn't have anything on me.
May I just interrupt? This was in a sheriff's car. You were being asked by a colleague if you had recording information on you?
Yes, because we always keep recorders on us. So he wanted to make sure I didn't have a recording on me. And so we took everything off, and I said, I'm not going to say his name. I said, what is the problem? What's up? And he said, listen, I'm just going to tell you, we didn't want you back here. And he said, and we don't like what you're doing. We don't like that you allow your trainees to eat. We don't like how you're doing things. And I don't remember, the extent of the conversation, but it wasn't a friendly, hey, welcome. And I proceeded to also tell him that you guys don't talk to me. You don't help me out here, and that's fine. I don't need your help. I'll figure it out. But I told him my unit number was 31 Boy, because 33, Lennox is the third station, so 31 is the number of the cars. And so I told him, what happens in 31 Boy is what happens in 31 Boy. I don't ask you what happens in your car. All I care is if you back me, I back you, and we're supposed to do what we're supposed to do. I don't care what happens in your car, and you shouldn't care what happens to me either. Shortly thereafter, I kind of got back with my trainee. I don't recall if I told my trainee or not. I think I was just frustrated the rest of the day because I just thought the nerve of him to tell me what I can and what I can't do. And that was one day. Another time...
May I just inquire, was this person a supervisor, a captain, a lieutenant, a sergeant?
No, he was a peer.
He was a deputy
He was
sheriff?
a deputy, yes.
Was he a training officer?
I don't recall if he was a training officer. I don't recall offhand.
But he was a Reaper.
Yes.
When he said, we don't like you around here, or we didn't want you back, who did you understand him to be referring to when he said we?
Him and his buddies, the people that he hangs out with.
And just generally, who do you mean by his buddies?
It might be the Reapers. It might be other people also there. Because there was people that also approached me that were very welcoming to me being there. So I got the message, what he was trying to say. And another day, another time, I was coming back into the station, and the way the station used to be was Lennox Station. It was a small station. It's a hallway, and there's a bulletin board on the side where you can put advertisements and put pieces of paper up. And one day, I was walking and I looked, and my business card was there with an X in it. It was just X'd out. And I took the business card. I still have it to this day. I still have it because I just couldn't believe that someone did that. Another day, another time, we would sign up to participate in Baker to Vegas and other events, and I signed my name up to participate, and someone had just scratched my name out, just scratched it out. So that happened, and then, like I said, all this happened when I was there. Then one time my trainee and I were instructed to take a prisoner to Compton Station. And dispatch said, hey, we're dispatching you. You're going to take this, you and your trainee need to go take the inmate a prisoner, I should say, over to Compton. Took the prisoner to Compton. When I arrived at Compton Station, I saw a friend that I hadn't seen in a while. And so we were outside talking briefly. The prisoner was already dropped off, and I was talking to this person briefly. And at that time, all of a sudden, a guy walks by who I know used to be at Lennox and who I pretty much think is, one of the Reapers. And he looks at me and I look at him. I know he doesn't care for me. And I said, watch, he's going to tell dispatch that I'm talking to you. And so I said, kind of finished my conversation, told my friend, let me, go ahead and get in the car and get back to the area. Got back to the area. I don't recall if there was a message in the buffer that says, hey, let me know when you get back from dispatch. I don't really recall because it was so long ago. But the minute I got back into the area, we let them know we were back in the area, I was hammered. And when I say hammered, that means that dispatch gave me, I want to say, every call that was in the buffer. They gave me a call that was on the central side. They gave me a call in Gardena. They gave me calls in Vermont. And I was a Vermont car, meaning that was my area. So my training and I were literally trying to handle all these different calls and going on all these different errands. So I just got upset. And I contacted my field sergeant and said, I'm going to be on the field for a little bit. I've got to handle this. And I think the sergeant knew, because the sergeant just said, okay. I said, I'm going to the station, I'm going to be on the field for a little bit. When I walked into the station and I told the dispatcher, who is a Reaper? And I said, I want to see you outside. Went outside and I pretty much told him that I don't appreciate what he's doing. I know what he's doing and I know why he's doing it. And, you know, he said, hey, wait, you know, we like you, but we don't like you. You know, we didn't want you back here as a TO. And I said, listen, I'm not here to be liked. I'm not here to have beers with you guys. I'm just here to do my job. But it was not very nice. And our conversation it was loud, it got loud. And I didn't know what was going to happen. And the reason I say that is because the next day, I had about 3 or 4 people that had been at the station that were detectives also that approached me and apologized and said, if I need any help, to always let them know. So somehow, some way, this got out of what happened that night. But from that point on, I didn't really have any more issues with them. And shortly thereafter, I think I interviewed and I went to major crimes.
So, excuse me, you did what?
I went to major crimes.
Oh, so you left Atlantic Station?
Yes, not too long after that, sir, yes.
Okay, thank you.
But I want to try to understand what the transgressions were that you committed that would cause this kind of reaction and an attempt to push you out. You said earlier you allowed your trainees to eat. Could you explain? What that means in this context?
Well, there's a policy. You can't haze people. That falls under hazing. You can't tell people they can't eat. They can't use the bathroom. Maybe somewhere, many moons ago, maybe they were doing that, but you can't do that, right? And that's not how I was trained. I had an excellent training officer at Lennox that was great. And he I didn't sit down and eat with them, but he allowed me to eat. So I didn't play games. I just was trying to train someone. That person was my partner, even though they were a trainee. They were my partner.
And let me ask you about the significance to you in your job as a sheriff's deputy, as well as the impact on the community to this being run around by the dispatcher. Could you talk a little bit about how that affected you and how you believe it affected your capabilities to serve the community that you are responsible for serving?
Sure. Well, it affects me because I can't be the best deputy sheriff I can be, right? I can't be as attentive as I should be. Luckily, all this happened toward the end of the shift. It was nighttime. It happened toward the end of the shift. But that means that all of the different calls, instead of handling or sending the calls to people that could handle them, that means that the public had to wait that much longer for calls. They had to wait that much longer for services, all because someone wanted to play a game.
And just finally on this point, is it usual for deputies and dispatchers to determine who will be at a station and in what role the person will play?
What do you mean, the
So
dispatcher?
the dispatcher, for example, spoke with you and said, we don't really want you around here, and was trying to, push you. Is that a kind of ordinary, customary way to run the sheriff's department?
No, absolutely not.
You felt you were being picked on or forced to go somewhere else? That was
Yes.
their intention?
Yes.
Let me ask you about your familiarity with certain other stations. We can talk about Palmdale and Lancaster. You're familiar with the stations there?
Yes, a little bit, yes, sir.
And how did you gain your familiarity with those stations?
When I worked major crimes as a vice detective, we would go to Lancaster to conduct undercover operations. And what I learned when I was working major crimes is that we did not let Lancaster know when we were coming many times because there was chatter There was nothing that we ever had, there was no investigation or anything, but there was talk that the deputies would either dime off the prostitutes or the girls working, or there was also talk at one time that one of the deputies might have even been running prostitutes. So we never told them when we were coming out. And usually, when I work major crimes, we let the unit know because we want to work together with them. We want to have an operations plan. We want them to know that we're coming. But we did not let them know. We would just come in the night before, stay there, and then we would conduct the operations. When we started arresting people, then they would know that we were in town.
And what years did this occur?
2002, 3, 4, somewhere in there.
So in the early 2000s, it was part of your work to be careful with other colleagues in the sheriff's department for fear that they would compromise an investigation?
Yes.
And is that a kind of a usual concern that one would have in a professional policing organization?
You shouldn't have that.
What was the ethnic makeup of the deputies in the Lancaster and Palmdale stations?
Predominantly white.
And have you heard of a deputy clique called the Cowboys?
Yeah, I heard of it, yes.
And do you know whether they were reported to have been based in the Palmdale, Lancaster area?
That's just what I heard, they're up there in that area, that's what I've heard.
Would you talk a little bit about what your understanding was about the environment or atmosphere in those two stations in terms of how people related and how they were all connected?
Well, it was always understood, I should say, it was always told to me, and I started to see it when I was there working major crimes, that a lot of people grow up there, they go to high school there, I think they go to AV college, they stay there, then they become a deputy, then they stay as a sergeant, they stay as a lieutenant. So they're very, very enclosed, they're all together. So they don't really branch out. A lot of them don't come down south. When I say down south, that's the northern county. They don't come to the southern county to work.
And is Lancaster a contract city?
Yes.
And would you describe what a contract city is?
Contract city is when the city contracts with the county to provide police services for their city.
Were you invited to apply to become the captain in Lancaster?
I was.
And how did that invitation to apply come about?
My old captain, who was a commander, called me and said that because I understood DOJ, I understood, meaning working from custody, I understood a lot of the different compliance measures and what was required of DOJ. This commander thought that I would do well since Lancaster was currently under a DOJ mandate, and that I could help the city and I could help the station kind of get out of the DOJ mandate.
And was it an exciting opportunity for you to consider working in Lancaster after you've had this professional experience with them?
Absolutely not. And I'm sorry, I just say that because I'm born and raised in LA. I've never lived up there, so when I say absolutely not, that means I was going to have to make some adjustments, but I was willing to do it, and I wanted to do it for the better of everything.
And so, in fact, you applied?
I did apply.
And did you get that position?
I did not.
Would you describe for the commission the circumstances of the interview and the application process?
The application process consists of, well, first of all, I was the only captain to apply. The other...
you were the only captain to apply for a captain's position in Lancaster.
I'm sorry, let me correct myself.
Yes.
I cannot speak on the first part. For interviews at a station, there's a special contract station, there's two parts. So the first part, you interview with the undersheriff and the assistant sheriff. And then if you make that cut, which is 5, then you go on to the actual interview with the actual city. So I can't speak for the first part, so I don't know. But the second part...
You made it through the first part?
Yes, sir, I made it
the
through the first part.
undersheriff and approved you to be considered by Lancaster?
Yes,
okay,
that is
correct.
Follow. So the second part is with the city council, and they interview you. They basically have an interview process.
Who was the undersheriff at the time?
Murakami.
And now would you describe for the commission the interview process at the city of Lancaster?
So the interview process at the city of Lancaster is about a U-shaped table with you being, in the end. I think it was about 6 or 7. It consists of the mayor, the vice mayor, some other individuals. I'm sorry, I don't draw a blank of exactly who it was. And they have a series of questions that they ask you about what would you do and how would you be, how would you be the unit commander, how would you be the captain of Lancaster Station. They ask you questions about crime. They ask you kind of how you would do things. They ask about your background. And so they ask a few questions.
And was there anything particularly unusual or directed toward you that was different from what you expected?
Yes. So I guess there was some discussion about something I had posted on a social media site. And I don't know if that was the trigger point, but there was that was a discussion, as well as the one of the individuals let it be known to me that he's receiving numerous phone calls not to hire me and do not bring me up there. And he was adamant about it. And he, kept on saying, out of all the applicants that are applying, you're the only one that I'm getting phone calls of don't hire you, don't bring you. And I tried to explain to him, I don't know why, but, I'm going to do my job. When I was at CRDF last year, I was doing a great job, so I don't know what someone would call and say, but I can't tell you, why I'm telling you not to pick me.
Before I ask you, let me just ask, was there a Reaper at Lancaster Station?
Yes.
And
Well, let me back up. He was not. He was either at Lancaster or Palmdale, but he was in the area. Yes.
And did you have reason to believe that he was involved in providing I'll say, a reference for you in connection with that job?
Possible. Yes.
Yeah. Have you heard the term having a jacket?
Yes.
What does having a jacket mean?
It's kind of slang that we use, that that person has a jacket before they get to the unit. People ask, about them. They want their reputation before they get there. People want to know the good and the bad about them. And so that's kind of a jacket. Most of the time, though, the jacket is going to be a negative thing.
Did you believe that you had a jacket from 20 years before when you were at Lennox Station and were unwelcomed by the Reapers?
I believe so, somewhat, yes.
And did you believe that that jacket was a factor in your not being appointed captain at the Lancaster Station?
I think that had something to do with it as well, yes.
You made some reference to the success you had at CRDF before or while you were applying to Lancaster. Would you just talk a little bit about the level of success you had achieved?
Sure. When I was promoted to captain at CRDF, unfortunately, it was right when COVID was starting. And so I was able to, when I say I mean not just me. When I say I mean my team. We're a team. So I had, my team and I were able to create an routine intake observation unit. We call it the RIO. And what we did was prisoners that were coming from the street, instead of us putting them directly into modules with everyone else, we made them a cohort. We put them all together so we make sure that if they came in and they were COVID positive, that they would all stay together. So we kept them there for the 14-day period, and then once they were clear, they didn't have COVID, then we were able to put them into other units, I should say other dorms or other cells. We were so successful that last year we received the American Jail Innovation Award unanimously for having such a successful program and making sure that we kept that out. COVID did not come inside the facility. We were doing amazing things with our force packets. When I say that, so I don't want to kind of go on, but we were doing some great things, so I didn't understand why I had this negative jacket, so to speak, of why I, shouldn't go to Lancaster. At the time, one of the questions was, would you be willing to move up here? And I told them that I would be willing to get an apartment because it was very near and dear to that council, that they wanted their captain also really be involved in the community.
Let me ask you, since you had some experience with the Reapers, you know about the Cowboys, familiar with the East LA station?
Yes.
And what reputation does the East LA station have among those of you who have long-term service in the Sheriff's Department?
They kind of just kind of do what they want to do many times.
Did you have occasion to visit the East LA station during your time?
I have been there before, yes.
And how welcoming were they to you upon those occasions?
I don't know if I really had any issues when I've gone in there before, just me personally, but not like I've had the issues when I was, in patrol. But at that time also, I was at major crimes. So I'm at major crimes. I'm bringing, inmates in, or I should say prisoners in for, arrest for prostitution. I didn't really have a whole lot of interaction with people, so.
Did you attend the swearing in of Sheriff Villanueva?
I did.
And was the East LA station singled out in any way at the swearing in ceremony?
Yes.
Would you describe for the commission how you perceive that?
Yes, so at the swearing in, there was about 2 or 3 roles that were reserved, and many of us later found out that they were reserved for the East LA station.
And what was your reaction to that?
I didn't think that was right.
Special seating arrangement.
Yeah, I don't think that's right. We shouldn't do that.
And in the manner of full disclosure, you brought a lawsuit against the county and the sheriff. It's pending now, is that so?
That's correct.
And why have you done that?
Because, the sheriff's department, I've been on for 27 years. And you try to follow the protocol that the sheriff department puts in place to handle issues. And when you try to follow the protocol and the sheriff department goes right behind and just still does whatever, where do you turn? You have nowhere else to turn but to basically sue. It's not proactive. The department, unfortunately, is very reactive. And it's not that I'm in 27 years. Other people that have lawsuits, nobody just wants to come to the end of their career and say, I just want to sue the department. That's not how you want to go out.
What's the specific issue that you focus on in this lawsuit?
Retaliation.
And in connection with what?
In connection with 2 things. First, I complained about my commander. I complained to the chief about what she was doing. And there's a protocol that you have to follow. It was not followed. Not only was it not followed, 2 days later, I was moved. You don't move the person that basically makes the complaint.
And what's the other aspect of your claim?
The incident with the use of force that was at San Fernando Valley, that's ongoing right now.
And that relates to the alleged kneeling on the neck of a prisoner by a deputy sheriff?
That is correct.
And the question of when Sheriff Villanueva was aware or saw a video of that behavior?
That's correct.
And your lawsuit addresses what you observed and reported in connection with that?
That's correct.
One of the tasks of the commission is to recommend policies that will end deputy cliques and improve the culture to create a better department. Here's your chance to give some suggestions for the commission as to how that can be accomplished. Could you speak to the commission and tell them what you think is the way forward for the department?
So, I truly believe leadership starts from the top and it trickles down. So, if we have leadership, if we have leaders that are not following rules or not following policies, that's problematic right there. Leadership, it's about gaining trust. And if we don't have trust from not just people within the department and the community, then what do we have? So, and it's not just one race, it's not just one gender, it's not just one creed. It has to be across the board. We have to have diversity, we have to have inclusion. It may not be popular, people may not like it, but we have to do it. So where do you start? So first of all, I think you have to start with that mindset. It's not selective transparency, it's not selective truth, it is the truth and transparency, not selective. If we want to talk about, I work recruitment and background. You want to get recruiters and background investigators that don't have implicit biases, that understand, that don't have certain stereotypes. Because they're the first people that get applicants, and they're the first people that can really weed applicants out. Do some people need to be weeded out? Absolutely. But are there some people that could have been on the department and didn't get on because maybe someone had some biases? It's possible as well. After you have applicants, your diverse pool should be a pool of diverse people. And not just, I only want these, I only want this race coming in, or I only want these guys coming in. It has to be fair and equitable across the board. When they go to the academy staff shouldn't just be one race or one gender. It should be diverse. That's what you should see. Because that's the first impressions that they see. When they come to the jails, it's responsible of the unit commanders, the lieutenants, and the sergeants to ensure that these young deputies that are coming in, they understand it's okay to party with your friends and kind of click off with certain groups of friends that you work with. But when that friendship clique starts becoming nefarious behavior or starts becoming illegal or immoral, you got to figure out who are you as a person. You have to realize that you're okay with your self-worth. You don't need to be accepted by the clique. You took an oath. You have to do right and you have to be right. And it's not about being popular, it's about being what's right. And doing what's right, I should say being right. Then, also I believe there needs to be somewhat like of a think tank, covert committee that is a diverse group of people that consists of people on the department, off the department, talk to units and bureaus within the department and the community. We have some amazing people in the department. We have some remarkable people in the department. We have 18,000 employees. Everybody's not bad. And there's people that have also retired that would help this department get back on track in a heartbeat. But everybody has to be on the same page, and it has to be welcoming. So I think it would take a combination of, making sure that we're recruiting the right people, making sure that the supervisors understand that you kind of continue to instill that, and then really getting people at the table to come to the table to figure out how do we ensure that we basically squash any issues that we might have. And really listen to not only the community, but you also have to listen to your deputy personnel.
May I just ask, in closing, is it your desire to remain a member of the LAFD?
Yes.
And is it your desire to help it become a better organization?
Oh, I would love to. I would love to help it, yes.
I have no further questions. Pass the witness.
Thank you, Mr. Deixler. Any questions from the commission?
Well, I've got a couple of, excuse me, Fanny, go ahead. You go
Just
first.
quick.
No.
Yeah, thank you for being here today. And I just wanted to get a little bit on the dates that you were, when you were, what was your rank? You were a captain just before COVID? When COVID hit, you were already a captain.
December 2019, I was a captain.
Okay,
yes.
okay. And that whole situation that happened with the, in the car, and make sure you don't have any recording. Do you recall when that happened?
That was probably sometime in 2000.
In 2000.
2001, somewhere in there.
Okay. So, even though you felt, and it seems from your impression, that there were times that you felt that there were people who did not want you to belong to the department. Right? From 2000 to COVID was like 2018.
Yes.
2019, right?
Yes,
So that's almost 20-year period.
yes.
You were not dissuaded from your commitment to work in the department for those 20 years, even though there were times when you were, as I said, mentioned, the way I would describe it is that you were felt that you weren't welcome.
That's correct. No, I wasn't. Unfortunately, ma'am, we do have some people that do leave the department because of that. We have young people that leave the department. We have executives that leave the department. However, I'm not going to have somebody push me out just because they don't want me there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Rob?
Yeah. I'm kind of interested in, your recommendations because you kind of indicated, of course, the obvious, and that is that deputies may, after off-duty, may associate with other deputies or anybody else in the world. But when you have deputy clicks that are actually calling shots at a station, deciding who can be at a station and who can't, who are deciding who can be training officers and who can't be training officers, who control assignments, of who gets the night shift and who gets this shift and so forth. But that's not just, that's pernicious, and that's been the history of deputy clicks throughout the department's history. And unfortunately, it just continues to exist, at least at certain stations. We have hard evidence of that. It's been brought forth at this hearing. So the question is, why not have, as a matter of policy in the manual, essentially a prohibition against a deputy joining, participating, or soliciting others to join a deputy clique?
I wouldn't see any problem with that, but I think everything has to go through the union and it has to go through civil service, but I wouldn't have any problems with that. If that's what you need to help you get a hold of it, we can't keep doing things the way we've done in the past and expect different changes.
That's sort of interesting. So does the union control the department and departmental policy? I mean,
No,
maybe this is part of the problem with deputy clicks is
No, I don't
is
think
ALADs. I
I
mean,
don't think that the union, but I think that part of the union and the policy, and you have the Peace Officer Bill of Rights and all these different other things, I think that talking to them and making sure, just being on board, everyone being on the same page.
nothing wrong with talking to them, but let me ask you this question, because you've been around for 27 years. Has ALADs ever taken the position that deputy clicks are a bad thing and they should be abolished and prohibited?
I can't speak for that. I don't know if they
I know.
are.
You would have heard of that, believe me. We would have heard of that ALAD's ever taken that position. And it doesn't take that position. It's taken a position that essentially protects, preserves, and fosters and furthers deputy clicks. That's a rhetorical question. Do not answer. So that's part
That's
of,
why I say I think a think tank or a group to really work with the sheriff and give recommendations, right? So if you have a group of individuals that are actually going to the stations, and people can really be honest with, have a free zone, a really a good zone or area to talk about things, and then that's when you can get information, and you take that to the sheriff, and then you tell the sheriff and you talk with the sheriff about how do we basically enforce some of these things. How do we make sure that we keep our finger on the pulse on all these different things that are happening? That's what's important. That's what good leadership is.
well, let me explore that a little bit. We've had a think tank, Brand Corporation, which is definitely a think tank and a well-thought-of think tank, and it went around and it did some interviewing. And I think, I don't want to misstate this, but I think it indicated that something like 15% of the deputies were either in cliques or had been at least solicited to be in cliques. You've got members of cliques that have the tattoos. You've got people who want to be in the cliques. And then you've got people that can't get into the cliques because they're excluded from them for various reasons, including, by the way, gender, race. So I mean, we've had the study, the think tank study. You've got this oversight commission. We're here. We made a recommendation to this sheriff to adopt a policy that just flat out says that a deputy is prohibited from joining, participating, this is in the future, going forward, joining, participating, or soliciting others to join a deputy clique. If that were put into effect, that would be subject to discipline, right? And you could be terminated for joining or participating in a deputy clique. And yet he refuses to adopt that policy. And for the life of me, I don't understand why. Maybe you can explain it to me. Can you? No, let me make that a rhetorical question. It's an unfair question. I shouldn't be asking a captain to read the state of mind of the elected sheriff. So I withdraw my question. But you can see our frustration, and we think that this is the existence of deputy clicks historically and continuing to this day is essentially a cancer on the sheriff's department. It needs to be eradicated. So it needs a strong policy that's put into place, and then that policy needs to be enforced through Internal Affairs Bureau by a sheriff who has the leadership to do it. And unfortunately, it just doesn't look like we have that kind of leadership. And you were talking about how important leadership is to solving problems. Anyway, I'll end my soliloquy there. Thank you, though, for testifying. Appreciate your being here.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So you've been there 27 years, you're bringing up these good suggestions, and
Can I just
Then-
say, ma'am, I'm not the only one. When I say that there's amazing people, there's a lot of people. Unfortunately, we get the view of the deputy gangs and the subjects, but there's a lot of great people in our department that have some great ideas. And I don't mean just at the top, I mean from top to bottom, right? But if you don't have that, if you don't have the platform to really talk about it and for it to be embraced, then they don't talk about it. So that's kind of, if they have the platform, we've got some amazing people, they've got some great ideas. Absolutely.
well, I agree with you, and I've met them since becoming a commissioner, since we, what are we, I think we're 5 years into our existence, 6 years? 6 years now. And I agree with you, and I've met them, and I'm very grateful. My question is around this, like you say, think tank or other means of soliciting ideas and moving forward. The department is 100 years old and has never had oversight before this commission started 6 years ago. So my question is, along with internal groups that you're thinking about to really elicit the best from the best and the brightest in the department and implement those ideas, do you believe that the sheriff's department should have civilian oversight like other law enforcement agencies have around the country?
Checks and balance, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So, Captain Walton, when you're at the Lennox station, there is a clique or deputy gang that associates under a symbol of the Grim Reaper.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And the Grim Reaper is a symbol of death, right?
Yes.
And how do you think it makes the community that the deputies at the Lennox station are supposed to serve feel when they hear that the station is run by a clique or gang that associates under a symbol of death?
I don't think it's very welcoming. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like you're protected.
You certainly didn't feel welcome there, right? And you're actually a sworn law enforcement officer.
I did not.
So how do you think the people in the community feel when they hear these things?
I know how they feel. I know.
And then you walk into the station one day and your business card is on a bulletin board with an X in it.
Yes.
Did you perceive that as a threat to your safety?
I think I did, but I also I was in disbelief that someone would do that. And I didn't know exactly what does that mean. Does that mean that you're going to come after me? Does that mean just go away? It was, like I said, I still have that card to this day.
Did you tell the leadership that it happened to you and how it made you feel?
I don't think I shared it that time. The gentleman I was dating used to work Lennox about 10 years before that. So when I told him that, he clearly understood exactly what I was telling him, and he knew what was happening.
And you've been at the department for 27 years, and these deputy cliques or deputy gangs, they've been there the whole time you've been there.
Yes.
Why is, I mean, you're a captain, so this is why I ask you, and you're very forthcoming, so thank you. Why is the LASD leadership so invested in maintaining these deputy gangs or deputy cliques, whatever you want to call them? What do they get out of it? is what I'm asking.
This is just what I believe. I do believe when I think about some of them that started, I believe that I don't know if they started with nefarious or bad intentions. I don't know if they were just like a group that just started to hang out. I don't know that.
Well, it's a Grim Reaper tattoo. Does that sound like it's good intention?
No, but I don't know if it was always the Grim Reaper tattoo. That's all I'm saying. So I don't know what the intentions were when it was first started. But somehow, someway, it went south, is what I'm saying. And it's obvious that it went south. I can only believe that they still hold on to it because of a tradition of that's who they are and their connection. I can't really speak for them because I'm not part of the clique. I don't know what their mindset is.
But what about the leadership? The leadership of the department hears that there's a group associating under the symbol of death, threatening other deputies, doing God knows what to community members. What does the leadership say about the appropriateness of this kind of conduct in a law enforcement organization?
I can't speak for the leader, but what I can tell you is that is not good leadership. That's all I can tell you. I can't speak for why, but that's why I initially said, sir, leadership starts from the top, right? So if the top is tolerating things, then that's why it flows all the way down. If the top thinks that they don't have to follow the law, then that's why it flows down. Other people don't think that they have to follow the law as well.
I'm listening. But you mentioned a think tank, but if that's true, a think tank won't do any good because the think tank will study it and give recommendations and they won't be accepted. They'll be ignored. They'll be rejected.
Well, what if you have a sheriff that embraces it?
Good point, because Commissioner Bonner mentioned the RAND report and our sheriff's reaction was to attack the RAND group.
So, sir, if we're right, but when we're wrong, and that is what good leadership is. You have to own up to it. So if we have a think tank that says, hey, let's talk about this, let's do this, and you have a sheriff that says, I'm open to it, I'm open to us working together to collaborate with the community, to collaborate with everybody involved, then that's the only way that this is going to move forward. We cannot have resistance.
Okay, but we've had many different sheriffs over the course of decades in these gangs. They exist alongside all the different sheriffs. So my question is, do you think there's something institutional about this department that you have worked with that facilitates or supports or enables deputy gangs?
It's possible, but I also believe, when I say it's possible, but I also believe that the more, like you have the COC been established, you guys are established, but the more you hammer it and the more we're on top of it, it's going to change. I have faith and I believe that it's going to change. I really do.
Well, I appreciate that. Now, the sheriff, he doesn't accept our recommendations about deputy gangs either. He attacks us.
Like I said, when you have everyone at the table working together and you have a sheriff that wants to work together and to collaborate and everything with everyone, then that's when I think this will start getting uprighted and it will move in the right direction. I think we're kind of inching there, but you have to have the right person with an open mind who is open to listen and to make the recommendations.
Okay. The Grim Reapers, do they accept women? Do you know any women to belong to that deputy clique or deputy gang, in my opinion?
I don't think there's, not that I know of, no, sir.
People of color?
I think there's one or two, but I'm not sure.
And you mentioned your...
Excuse me, when you say people of color, do you mean Hispanic? Do you mean black? What do you mean, sir?
Anyone who isn't a white male?
No, they,
Yeah. Okay.
yes.
Any blacks?
I do believe there's one or two.
And you also talked about your experiences in the with the Antelope Valley stations.
Yes, sir.
And you referred to the fact that the department up there in those stations is under a DOJ mandate.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us what that means?
They're under a mandate because of some of their patrol practices the Department of Justice came in and put a mandate, and there's, I forgot exactly how many compliance or issues that they have to comply with, but they're under a mandate to make sure that they police their community the way they should police their community, not just one race or one gender. They need to police their community across the board.
And so the mandate is because the United States Department of Justice determined that the Antelope Valley stations were enforcing the law in a racially discriminatory manner against the residents in the Antelope Valley, right?
That is correct, sir.
And that's been since, what, 10 years? It's been under the mandate?
I believe it's been a long time, yes, sir.
And then you said there is a deputy clique or gang that you're familiar with there in Lancaster, the Cowboys.
That's all. I don't know any more than that's who's up there, the Cowboys.
Do you know about the rattlesnakes?
No, sir.
So you don't know that they were mentioned in the DOJ study, that they were part of the problem?
No, sir, I didn't read that.
But someone asked you to go up there and apply to be the captain,
Yes, sir.
and you did, and you were not successful.
No, sir.
And do you know why?
I have a feeling why. Do I know for a fact? No, but I have a feeling that I did not fit the makeup that they wanted, because the person that they picked was a white male. And I was in the interview, I was asked, how do I handle people that don't want me there? And I told them that it's going to be a little work, but we can get through it. One of the gentlemen was very adamant that I don't think his cup of tea, so to speak. I'll say that.
Do you think the proliferation of these deputy gangs or deputy cliques has added to the problem of racially discriminatory enforcement of the laws?
Unfortunately, yes, I do.
Why?
Because when you have cliques or when you have a group of people that are patrolling areas and they're predominantly one race, and the area that they're patrolling is predominantly black or brown, then that's extremely problematic, because it shows your biases, right? It shows that you're not being fair. It shows that you, are you really patrolling, or are you patrolling with some other, some other direction is what I should say.
And you observed that it's okay to start your career in the department with a group of friends, and I think you said engage in some kind of clique activity, but it's not okay when it crosses over to immoral and illegal conduct.
Yes, because I'm friends with some of the same people that I met as a young deputy, but and I work with them. But we don't do illegal things, right? But when you start doing illegal things, or when you start trying to be liked or be accepted or want to be part of the cool kids, so to speak, that's what the problem is, because you have some people that don't know how to tell people no. Everyone doesn't have the fortitude and the gumption to basically push past them. It's just the fact of the matter. That's why the department has to have supervisors that kind of help people along to ensure that they don't fall prey to this.
And what is the department doing to reduce this gang culture that causes all these problems? Are they doing anything affirmatively right now?
I think there was I haven't been working a few months, but I do believe the last time I was working, there was an email or something that was sent out by the sheriff for a notification about gangs or cliques. I don't really recall what it was, but there was some type of notification that was sent out, a newsletter.
Are you allowed to ask people if they're in a deputy gang or clique?
I don't think, I think you can, but I've never asked anyone. It's just kind of, it's been, you just kind of know who's in the gang. It's one thing about our department, 18,000, 10,000 sworn, so big, but yet very small. Meaning people talk a lot. People talk, ready to talk a lot, and you know things. And people are very eager to tell on other people.
Okay. So, since everyone knows when the sheriff makes Larry Delmise his chief of staff, everyone knew he just appointed a Grim Reaper as his chief of staff.
Well, not everyone, because we got new, not everyone, but yes, it was known for people that understood that he was connected to the organization, the Reapers, and yes, you knew that's who was going to be in the sheriff's office. Yes.
Can I ask, is there a downside to a supervisor just clarifying with who works for her? Are you in this deputy gang or clique? And recording that information so everyone in charge can share that information with each other, and then you know it.
I don't know, because I've never been in that position where I've asked anyone, but I know that there's been, I think there's been some pushback before. My understanding is when people were asking, if people are in gangs, I think there's been some pushback. There's not been a clear line of if you can say it or you can ask, is my understanding.
It's unclear to you.
Yes, sir.
Pushback from whom?
I mean, I think it was my understanding, just, it might be the union, it might be county council. This is only through rumors. I've never sat in that seat where someone has called me and pushed back and said, hey, Angela, you can't ask this question. So there's no clear line of what and how you can or can you ask this stuff.
Okay, but Captain, there's been pushback the other way, because the community certainly wants to know who's in the deputy gang.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, there's lots of complaints about it. There's lots of stuff out there in the community about it. Has anyone addressed how this makes the communities that are served by LASD?
I can't answer that question also because as a captain, I've been a captain in court services and custody, not patrol. Patrol stations is where you're going to find, that's where the cliques are. So I can't speak on that because I have not been a captain at those stations, so I don't know if there's been, community that activists or community organizations kind of brought that to the attention of a unit commander at that station. I've never worked a patrol station as a captain.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question.
Louis?
You talked about leadership, and leadership, one of the first foundations is trust. And I can see that internally as trust in the department, is in a paramilitary organization, is centered in trust.
I'm sorry, I didn't get
Centered in a paramilitary organization to develop trust and have.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, there's.
Of course, just like Dave mentioned.
Can we turn off the cell phones just so it doesn't interfere with the testimony? Go ahead.
I'm
So
sorry, I couldn't hear you, sir.
it would start with trust, and in the department. Now, in terms of outside of the department in the community, we've heard testimony about the banditos in East LA, and when you had commented about East LA doing whatever they want, and we've also heard of the decal on, and the entryway to the East LA station with the booth. And, that symbol has a lot of meaning, and traumatic meaning, I think, for the community, with the history of East LA and the Sheriff's Department. And do you think that symbol erodes community trust? Like, how do you get past that to trying to build trust with the community when you have a symbol that has such a powerful meaning behind it?
I think you have to have a sheriff that is willing to basically tell them to remove that. You have to start somewhere. And if you don't have a leader that's willing to say that or do that, then what message am I conveying to you as a leader? That it's okay. And it's not okay. So that's where I said initially leadership starts from the top and trickles down, right? So if the leader is conducting themselves in a certain way, then everyone all the way down to one of our law enforcement our runners, they might not think that they have to follow the law at all as well. So that's very important to me. It's very disappointing. It's very disappointing to me being on this department this year, this long, and to be here in 2022 and thinking that we would progress, and we're not progressing. There's a lot of people that really want this department to change and change for the better. I'm not speaking the community. Yes, I know the community. I'm talking about within. I don't want people to just think the department is just okay with all this bad stuff. There's a lot of people that it hurts our heart, and they want it to change. It's not just the community. They want it to change from within as well.
Thank you.
We're gonna take a break, 15 minutes. Mr. Deixler, can we excuse Captain Walton, or?
Yes, and with our thanks.
Okay.
Thank you
Yeah, I'm
so
finished.
much. You're done.
Thank you
Yes,
so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll take a 15-minute break now.
Thanks a lot.
Yes,
And we are working on a couple of technical things, so we will get started in about 4 minutes. So we're looking at an 11:05 start time to resume from our break. Thank you everyone for your patience. We're just going to do a quick audio check with Anonymous. Anonymous, can you unmute yourself and say hello? Excellent. We do hear you. You can go ahead and mute yourself, and we will be resuming from break in about 1 minute. So everyone, please stand by. Thank you.
We're going to resume the fifth special hearing of Deputy Gaines. Captain Walton has been excused. Mr. Deixler, do you have any other witnesses today?
Yes, we have one more witness who will be testifying anonymously and testifying through the screen, assuming that the technology has finally been handled. So hope springs eternal.
So I guess we'll just swear the witness like we did last time via the screen.
Yes. Yes. Roll over.
You will not see the person.
You will not see a person.
It was the same. It was the same.
Yep.
I just need to know when.
They will honestly acknowledge they don't need themselves. So go ahead.
Okay, so we're calling our next anonymous witness, who I hope will unmute now. And if possible, would you acknowledge that you are on anonymous witness?
Hello.
Welcome.
Okay, for our anonymous witness, we're in a hearing, and it's gonna be, we're just gonna act as if you're here. Can you raise your right hand?
Okay.
Do you swear or solemnly affirm, under penalty of perjury, to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning. Would you, how long have you been an employee of the LASD?
8 years.
And you've requested to appear anonymously, is that correct?
Yes.
And why have you requested to appear anonymously?
Because of fear of penalty.
And what's the nature of the fear? Does it relate to your career, to your physical safety? Please explain.
Both physical from vetoes and retaliation for my career with the Sheriff's Department.
Do you know of anybody receiving threats designed to intimidate them or prevent them from cooperating with investigations of wrongdoing in the LASD?
Yes.
And could you just briefly describe what you know about such efforts?
Yes. Vendors leave dead rats in front of people's homes or in their backyard.
Let me put up, I hope you'll be able to see this picture. And you've testified that there are groups of people who have received dead rats on their patios or at their residence who are believed to be cooperating with LASD investigations. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes.
And without going into any detail, would it be correct to say that you were a recipient of such a gift?
Yes.
And on more than one occasion?
Correct.
And that's also true of others that you know of? Is that correct?
Yes.
Were you ever stationed in East LA?
Yes.
And for how long were you stationed in East LA?
About 2 years.
Before you went to East LA, had you been warned about how people were treated there?
Yes.
And what in substance were you told about the treatment that you might expect if you went to East LA?
I was told trainees were paid, that they were harassed, and that there was a hostile work environment.
I'm sorry, you break up from time to time. Did you say that people were told about being harassed?
Correct.
And did you say a hostile work environment?
Yes.
And anything else that that you were warned about before you went to East LA?
And that the trainees were hazed.
Hey, trainees were hazed.
Correct.
Did you experience any of the mistreatment about which you were warned while you were stationed at East LA?
Yes.
Was there a particular ringleader or person who was responsible, you believe, for that treatment?
Yes.
And who was that person?
Rene Munoz.
Did you say Rene Munoz?
Correct.
And did you observe that there was a practice at East LA, perhaps led by Mr. Munoz, regarding how disfavored deputies were treated?
Yes.
And could you describe in a general way how such deputies were treated during the time you were in East LA?
Yes, banditos would withhold backup to the deputies they didn't like.
Did you say banditos?
Correct.
And what were the banditos?
They're a deputy gang.
Deputy gang, and what do you mean by deputy gang?
They commit crimes.
When you said there was no backup for the disfavored deputies, would you describe what you meant by that, please?
Yes, banditos would purposely not show up to calls for service to help their partners, the partners they didn't like, and they wanted out of the station.
Was there anything hidden about the banditos' presence in the East LA station?
No.
How did the banditos show their power or influence in the East LA station during the time you and other disfavored deputies were present?
They had control over the station. They made decisions rather than the supervisors, whether it was scheduling, who was going to be on what shift, who was going to get what spot, who would get promoted to training officer, etc.
Were they involved also in dispatching calls?
Yes, very much so.
And was that an important source of power for the banditos during the time that you and other disfavored deputies were there?
Yes.
And why was that?
Because that's how we get the help. That's how calls get dispatched. And that was a big thing for them, to make sure whether people wouldn't get the help or certain people would get more calls than others, etc.
And was it your experience that you and other disfavored deputies had the experience of getting multiple calls?
Yes.
And was it your experience that the multiple calls were throughout the area that was to be policed by the sheriffs from the East LA station?
Yes.
And what effect did that have first on you as a sheriff's deputy trying to do a job?
It was very difficult to work a car by myself in East LA and have to go to certain calls by myself, having to worry about backup, and on top of that, getting so many calls. I felt tired, burnt out, and the point of the banditos was that, to make you tired, burned out, so that they could run you out of the station and force you out willingly.
And what about the effect on the community of having police deputies, sheriff's deputies, who were being handled in the manner in which you describe, being run around the area and being called for multiple calls?
People from the public would not be getting help on a timely manner, and certain procedures that required more deputies to be there to get it done would take a long time because they weren't helping.
Did you decide to attend the Kennedy Hall event at which the deputies were beaten?
No.
Why did you decide to not attend that, I guess, celebratory event? Let me ask you, did you understand that that was to be a celebration of people getting off training?
Yes.
And so why did you decide to not attend a station celebration?
Because there was already tension in at the station, and I did not feel safe.
And why was that?
Because the banditos were already being very expressive about who they didn't want in there, and they were willing to do whatever it took to get them out of the station, and I was afraid for my safety going there.
Let me ask you about the treatment specifically of women deputies, but first, before I do that, were women members of the banditos?
No, they were not allowed. They are, however, associates.
And what do you mean by an associate?
They're not fully in. They don't get the tattoo. They just pretty much help them be the women, like, leader.
Did you ever hear about something called cigar night?
Yes.
And would you describe what cigar night was?
It's an event hosted by banditos to go sell cigars to deputies.
And was that an event that you chose to not attend?
Correct, I did not.
And why was that?
I did not like the fact that they wanted to use women to sell the cigars because they said it would sell more to have women be the ones to sell them.
When you were at the East LA station, did you ever hear that trainees were taxed?
Yes.
And what did it mean to be taxed when you were at the LA station?
To volunteer to work hours, a lot of hours of overtime. It would mean to give them money for the banditos parties and their barbecues.
And who imposed the taxes?
The banditos.
Were women at East LA generally pressured to give money at the request of the banditos?
Yes,
Did you do so?
one time.
And why did you decide to give money at the request of the banditos?
I was fairly new and I was afraid of retaliation.
Was it widely known that the banditos were imposing taxes on trainees?
Yes.
What was done about that by the supervisors in the East LA station?
Nothing.
You talked about the fact that disfavored deputies didn't get backup because of the banditos. Did those of you who were disfavored deputies develop a kind of workaround?
Yes.
Would you describe for the commission how you disfavored deputies were forced to protect yourselves?
Yes, there wasn't a lot of it, but there were certain shifts where we would actually have at least one person that was against or everything bad the banditos would do. So we would back each other up on calls and try our best to keep each other safe.
And in trying to keep each other safe among the disfavored deputies, was that something that was easily accomplished because people were close to one another, or was that a challenge based alone on geography?
It was a big challenge, yes.
And why was that?
Just having the job is already stressful enough, going into the unknown all the time, and on top of that, having to worry about your partner not just in your city but on the other city, it was very difficult to keep track of that.
Was the fact that the banditos were running, scheduling, assigning trainees, dispatching calls in the way you described, was that generally known in the East LA station by those people who were there?
Yes.
Would it have to have been known by the captains, the lieutenants, and others who were in charge?
Yes.
During the time you were at East LA station, did you ever hear the expression work backwards?
Yes.
And what did you understand the term work backwards to mean during the time you and others were at East LA station?
It was finding someone committing a crime. However, the detention or arrest would be violating their Fourth Amendment rights, and later on having to find out how to make it look legal on paper.
Now, you didn't work backwards in connection with your enforcement of any laws or investigation of crimes, is that right?
Correct, I did not.
Did you hear talk while you were at East LA from other deputies about their having worked backwards on cases?
Yes.
Was membership in the Banditos open to just anybody who wished to join?
No.
What was the ethnic makeup of the Banditos?
Latinos.
Sheriff Villanueva has stated that his first act as a sheriff was to appoint a new captain in East LA and transfer 36 people from East LA. First of all, the incidents you described about lack of backup, cigar nights, taxing, etc., were those events all during the time that Sheriff Villanueva was the sheriff?
Yes, they were.
Were all of the banditos removed from East LA upon Sheriff Villanueva's taking office?
No, some were promoted.
Were the 36 people he has claimed to have transferred, were those, to your knowledge, voluntary or involuntary?
Voluntary.
I have no further questions of the witness. Pass the witness.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission?
I have a question. The transferring of deputies, what's the process usually like? 36 deputies were transferred. Were they transferred kind of in the same time frame?
I never saw 36 people get.
Okay. The transfers usually happen because people put in they want to go work somewhere else for whatever reason? Or was it usually an organizational decision to ask people to transfer?
If it's voluntary, you submit a paper. I believe it's every 6 months you get the opportunity. And then if it's involuntary, then you can get what they call overnighted. Pretty much you leave the same day.
When you were there, did you experience people being overnighted? Like you came to work on Monday and then you came to work on Wednesday and they weren't there?
Not after the Kennedy Hall incident.
So after the Kennedy Hall incident, you did not, and to your best knowledge, notice any overnighting where people were immediately transferred?
After the Kennedy Hall, I did see not 36, a very, very, very small amount of people right after the Kennedy Hall incident.
When you say a small amount, are you thinking 3, 4, or 5 people?
About 4 people, or
4 people.
3, 4 people.
Did she say 4? I can.
3 to 4 people,
3 to 4.
she said, I believe. Yeah. Are you currently with the department?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Let me just follow up if I could. This is Robert Bonner, one of the commissioners. So your testimony is that after Sheriff Villanueva became sheriff, there were not 36 people transferred from East LA to other stations or assignments. Is that accurate?
Yes.
To your knowledge, were any persons, I hesitate to use the involuntary, we know there were no involuntary transfers, but were there any noticeable significant numbers of voluntary transfers out of East LA after Sheriff Villanueva became sheriff in December of 2018?
Not that I saw.
Do you know, did any disfavored deputies, as that term was used in your testimony, did any disfavored deputies take an opportunity to get transferred out of the East LA station after the Kennedy Hall incident?
Yes.
And do you know approximately how many were, first of all, I take it those transfers are with the consent of the Sheriff's Department management, that is to say the captain of the station and above, is that correct?
Yes.
Because if you want to voluntarily transfer out of a station, you can't necessarily just do it right away, can you, within the Sheriff's Department rules? Can you?
You can't transfer voluntarily. It takes some time. It doesn't happen overnight.
Right, okay, so it's a process, basically. But do you know approximately how many disfavored deputies were able to transfer out of East LA Station after the Kennedy Hall incident?
To my
What's your estimate? Yeah, excuse me. Go
to
ahead.
my knowledge, about 8 people.
About 8. And were any of those after Sheriff Villanueva became sheriff?
Yes.
And about of the 8, approximately how many of them were voluntarily transferred out after he became sheriff?
It was voluntary. At the same time, I would say it was a sort of forced. I'm sure if the circumstances were different, people would want to stay there.
Yeah, okay, I'm not quite sure yet, but could you give me an estimate as to the number after Sheriff Villanueva became sheriff that voluntarily transferred out of the East LA Station? Disfavored deputies?
To my knowledge, 8.
8, okay. All right, so I guess you're saying then that those 8 were all transferred after Sheriff Villanueva became sheriff, correct?
Yes.
In other words, you have the Kennedy Hall incident. I've forgotten the date of that, but that preceded by a number of months the Sheriff Villanueva actually taking office of sheriff and being sworn in December of 2018. In any event, so I'm trying to make that differentiation. So, to your knowledge, were any banditos, deputies who were part of the banditos clique in the East LA Station, were any of them involuntarily transferred? Actually, I'm involuntary now. Were any of them involuntarily transferred out of the East LA Station after Sheriff Villanueva became sheriff, to your knowledge?
I wouldn't know.
Okay. Do you know if any of them were voluntarily, any banditos, deputies?
Bandito.
Yeah, I'm talking about, first of all, I don't think anybody was involuntarily transferred, but it's your testimony, not mine here. So my first question was were any banditos, deputies that were members of the banditos, deputy clique, gang, or exclusionary subgroup, were any of them involuntarily transferred out of the East LA Station but after Sheriff Villanueva became sheriff?
I would say they were involuntary. I think they wanted to stay.
Would it be your testimony that you have no knowledge that anybody was involuntarily transferred, correct?
Say that again?
Do you have any knowledge as to whether anybody was involuntarily transferred? Just so you understand what I'm saying is, I'm saying that people, deputies who were identified as part of a deputy clique, were any of them involuntarily transferred out of the East LA Station after Sheriff Villanueva became sheriff?
Yes.
Okay, approximately how many?
I wouldn't know.
Okay. Can you even give me an estimate on that in terms of numbers?
I'm just talking about the same 3, but I guess they weren't transferred. I'm counting them. The same 3, 4 that I told you earlier about.
Okay, I'm not quite, you were breaking up a little bit for me anyway, but was your estimate about 3 or 4?
Correct.
All right. Okay. Now, you indicated that, I believe, in your testimony, that some banditos, deputy sheriffs who were banditos, were promoted after the Kennedy Hall incident. Is that correct?
Yes.
Approximately how many were promoted, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, that I know for sure, 2.
Two were promoted. I almost want to ask their names, but I won't right now, but we might be interested in that. But when you say two were promoted, they were promoted, what, from deputies to sergeants?
The detectives.
Pardon?
Detectives.
To detectives. Well, when you promoted to a detective, don't you become a sergeant?
No.
Okay. Well, always learning things about the sheriff's department. Okay, so they were promoted to detectives. And when they're promoted to detectives, are they transferred out of the East LA station, or do they stay at the East LA station?
Yeah, it depends on the preference.
Okay. Well, what about the two we're talking about? Did they stay at the East LA station, or were they moved were they transferred somewhere else?
They stay.
Okay, so they're promoted at the station. All right, thank you. Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Patty?
Yes, yeah, thank you again. I do have another question. Were you already stationed at East LA when the former Sheriff McDonald removed the insignia logo from the station? Were you there? Were you stationed there then?
Yes.
And were you there when it was replaced? When it was put back up with some change?
When I got there, it wasn't there anymore, and then it was there. I was there when it got brought back up.
Not brought back, okay. And then I'm wondering if, while you were at East LA, if you were, since you're aware of your treatment for yourself and some others, were you aware of any harassment, kind of driving by the houses of community members, or any type of aggressive or annoyances that some of the deputies at East LA may have done to community members who may have had some prior knowledge and or confrontations with East LA deputies?
Is your question more between the deputies and the public? I'm a little confused.
Yes, deputies and some members of the public, some family members, some people who may have had some interaction with deputies in the past, and that have you heard about any kind of harassment or retaliation against the community members?
Retaliation, I would say. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you said you've heard of retaliation? Yes, is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, and was it in the form of kind of harassments and annoyances?
Not.
What form did the retaliation take, as far as you know?
Maybe if something, for an example, I could give you, if they're not happy with how a certain person of the public is behaving, or they got their feelings hurt, then they'll go the extra mile to find all the little stuff that they can add on to, whether it's a citation or the arrest. They'll try to add anything they can, just because of retaliation.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for testifying. You've told us pretty extensively of how the banditos mistreat trainees or other deputies at the East LA station. Along the same lines as Commissioner Giggins, I want to know, how do the banditos treat the community members in East LA? Do you know?
The banditos?
Yes.
I try to stay away from them as much as possible. I didn't work with them, so I didn't work close with them, I should say. So I wouldn't know.
Okay. And you told us about female associates of the banditos. Do you know, like, what are the requirements or expectations of the female deputies who associate with the banditos but aren't admitted?
Their requirements to become an associate,
Yes.
to flirt with them, sleep with them, that will get you in for sure.
So to be a female associate of the Banditos, there's an expectation that you will sleep with them?
Yes.
Are you aware of sexual harassment claims at the East LA station?
Yes.
Are there a lot of them, if you know?
To my knowledge, 2.
And when you receive a dead rat, like we saw in the beginning, does that convey any particular message to you and others who get these dead rats?
Yes.
Is it a threat?
Absolutely.
And that's the way you perceived it?
Yes.
And can you go to your boss or the leadership and express your fears about working with the Banditos?
Not at all. I've already tried and it didn't go well.
Why not? Tell us about that.
I'd rather not say too much information that would give up my identity. However,
Okay. I understand, but generally, so people who are mistreated or cross the Banditos, your view is you can't tell the leadership at the department about that because they don't want to receive that information.
Yes.
Do you have any idea you've been there what, 7 or 8 years with the department?
Yes.
Do you have any idea why the leadership would want to support deputy gangs like this? Like why they would not be supportive of you all who are complaining about being mistreated in this manner?
I wouldn't know.
No idea.
No.
Do you think that high-ranking members of the department are members of deputy gangs themselves?
Not to my knowledge.
I'm sorry, I just can't hear your...
I said not to my knowledge. I wouldn't be able to confirm that.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Deixler?
Thank the witness and excuse the witness.
Thank you very much, anonymous witness. We really appreciate you testifying here today.
Thank you.
Wow.
Mr. Deixler,
That's all we have today. We hope to have more, but these are the cards we've been dealt in terms of witness availability.
well, it sounds like we'll have to have another special hearing. My understanding is our contempt proceedings against the sheriff and the undersheriff are set for September 7th now. They've been advanced. So we'll at least have a hearing after that. And so after we select a date and a location, we can let everyone know about the 6th special hearing. If you don't have anything, Bert, I think the agenda now provides for commissioner comments and questions, followed by public comment from members of the community who are here today. So I'm going to ask my colleagues, does anyone want to say or make any remarks before we open it up to the public? Hearing,
I'll just,
okay.
just a comment that I find it very heartening that there are members of this department who are willing to come forward, whether they are coming in person, very obvious, or whether they, for safety reasons, deem to give us testimony anonymously via the videos. So I think it's extraordinary that we continue to hear not only the criticisms of the flaws, but also the continue to hear about not everybody that wants to go along with some of the policies that the department does impose, and that there are members within the department who are really interested in change happening. So I just wanted to mention it's very heartening, and I feel very grateful to these people who take the risk to come forward and tell their truths to us and to the public and the community at large.
You know, I might want to just add something to that thought of Commissioner Giggins, which I fully concur with. But, you know, I would say as our evidentiary hearings have been moving forward with the able assistance of special counsel, Mr. Deixler and other pro bono counsel that are assisting the commission in its investigation of deputy cliques, gangs, and or exclusionary subgroups. The evidence is mounting that not only do deputy cliques exist and continue to exist within the department, at least some of the stations of the department, but they have an extraordinary pernicious effect, both, by the way, on the public, but also within the sheriff's department. They're hurting the sheriff's department. And for that reason alone, I would also say that it's extraordinarily important that the message go out to all of the good men and women of the department, of the LA County Sheriff's Department, that you've got to come forward. This is the time to put an end to this. And we realize, because we've heard it, that there is intimidation being used here, dead rats at doorsteps, for God's sakes. What kind of a department is it? We've got to ask ourselves this question, but it's extraordinarily important that the good men and women of the Sheriff's Department, the deputies out there who are not part of this cancer, they need to come forward. They need to come forward to this commission and tell us the effects and impacts of the deputy cliques, subgroups, and gangs are having within their own department. So that's a plea, basically, but I know it's sometimes been difficult, understandably, in a way, but it's time now that everybody summon up all the courage they can and assist this Oversight Commission in getting to the bottom of how these deputy cliques operate and why they need to be eradicated once and for all from the Sheriff's Department. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, I certainly agree that with each hearing, the evidence of gang culture within the department grows. And it is of huge concern to this commission because we will never achieve 21st century policing, constitutional policing, community policing, when you have so many deputy gangs within the department that go unchecked and even supported. So I think we will just, I know it makes Sheriff Villanueva very upset, but we're going to keep developing the evidence and try to shine a light on as much of it as we possibly can in order to push LASD leadership to reform things. So Mr. Deixler, once again, our great thanks to you. And let's open it up for public comment.
Our first speaker, Isaac Asbury, followed by Ron Dow, followed by Steve Hill.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Isaac Asbury. I'm a resident of the city of Compton. I grew up in Compton. So I'm aware of the deputy sheriff from 2000 on. They were called the Vikings. When they were called the Vikings, it was mostly white officers from the South, pretty much. So they had a name in the community as the Vikings. They had no problem with that. So as the years went on, the Vikings got not older, then they started allowing minorities to join the force. And they began to change the names to the Jump Out Boys, to the Executioners, so on and so on. I worked in a federal prison for 25 years, and I was in charge of investigating prison gangs. So when I retired, I started a program called Team Intervention Program, and I would deal with the residents in Compton that were part of, gang, keeping them out of trouble. In 2009, Sergio Reyes was his name. He shot a young man by the name of Avery Cody Jr. He was 16 years old, and he shot him in the back, broad daylight. And from that day on, I've been studying every shooting in LA County. Basically, I want to thank the attorneys that's here. I want to thank the commission, because I've been fighting this fight for about 14 years, okay? And I was looking at some information of a report. It was 2001, and Max Husband was a walkthrough investigator from that long ago. So I'm somewhat frustrated, but I can say, from talking to different law enforcement, they're coming forward because they're watching you guys, and they're watching all these attorneys that's here representing. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Our second speaker, Ron Dow, followed by Steve Hill, followed by Michelle Infante.
The city of Compton is unaccountable for its part in allowing deputy gangs to fester unchecked since 2001. The city treats its $24.5 million LASD contract as a separate department with no organization chart reporting relationship. Yet the sheriff makes up a sizable portion of this general fund, while youth, recreation, and senior citizens programs practically non-existent. LASD does not disclose publicly who works from the Compton station despite repeated requests. Compton's lack of oversight is potentially a public safety threat to its citizenry and has resulted in millions of use of force payouts, Dante Taylor being one of many examples. The city is seemingly unaware of deputy work slowdowns and slow call response times identified by this commission. There is no public discussion of the quality of LASD service by Compton officials. For example, despite being an ordinance violation, the city is overrun with cannabis dispensaries and street shutdowns. As a way to get a handle on the accurate level of so-called crime in the city, the concerned citizens of Compton recommended to Compton officials that the sheriff adopt the National Incident-Based Reporting System in Compton. This information, once collected, should be accessible on the city's website in real time. Finally, in addition to executioners, banditos, and reapers, Chief Tardy should add members of the Proud Boys, 3%ers, and Oath Keepers to her list of persons to be purged from the Compton station. Lastly, I'll say that, like Compton, the sheriff, the majority of folks who work for the sheriff have got a bad reputation based on the activities of the minority. Just like the city of Compton blamed for the gang behavior of the few. It's not an indictment against all sheriff employees, because some of them are just like the captain that came today, are the witness here. We're suffering the same frustration. So I would encourage all of them that know better to speak up now while you have an opportunity.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Steve Hill, followed by Michelle Infante, followed by Jacqueline Ventures.
Hello, committee.
Hi.
Hey, my name is Steve Hill. I live in the Antelope Valley, up where our settlement agreement is currently taking place. Listen, I was arrested by the shot caller of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department on March 7th. Today is August 19th. I still don't know why I was arrested and nobody can find out. The DOJ refuses, their direct words, they reject filing charges against me. They can't even find out why I was arrested. I was arrested for political retribution for speaking out at a town hall meeting. The DOJ suggests I get an attorney. Because of my religion, I can't even find an attorney. I have a credit score that can't get any higher. I own a business, and I can't find legal representation because of my religion or lack thereof. I am pleading with the commission, subpoena the sheriff's department to find out why I was arrested, and that's where you'll find all the bullshit. Political retaliation by law enforcement. I'm a veteran. I'm a retired peace officer. You know, I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what else to do. Who am I to go to? I've been to Mike Garcia, Scott Wilk, Tom Lackey, the mayor of Palmdale. I've been to all the CAC meetings up there. I've talked to the Federal Department of Justice. Nobody's doing nothing. I don't know if it's incompetence, negligence, I don't know what it is. But as a veteran, I shouldn't have to deal with this shit. I'm pleading with you, do something. Thank you, and I really apologize for having to speak this way. Thanks.
Thank you.
Michelle Infante, followed by Jacqueline Ventures, followed by Valerie Vargas.
Good morning, my name is Michelle Infante, and I'm going to talk about Ruby Beltran. Ruby Beltran is 31 years old, pregnant, with 4-stage liver cancer at Century Regional Detention Facility. Her first grievance was, number 1, Deputy Hernandez. Please write that down. Deputy Hernandez put his hands down Ruby's pants and touched her vagina and did the same to several other girls. Second one, Deputy Mercado has been verbally and sexually harassing Ruby since she has been there at CRDF since June. Number 3, Deputy Mercado walked Ruby to her prenatal and threw her into an unoccupied cell onto a bed with all of his weight on top of her body. He later put her in the hole, and then Deputy Mercado told her, "Remember my face." Number 4, Deputy Martin retaliated on Ruby because she had been filing grievances by not allowing a pregnant Ruby to order extra food at commissary. Number 5, Deputy Martin took Ruby from her cell into a room yesterday with a Deputy Rice and wanted Ruby to say that she has been lying the whole time and that she would get her privileges back. Number 6, Deputy Martin told Ruby this will make them look bad for PREA audit. And Deputy Rice told Ruby that Deputy Martin could lose her license. Number 7, because her grievances were thrown in the trash can by deputies, Ruby did not receive medical care in a timely manner and she kept bleeding and lost her baby. Number 8, medical tried to get Ruby to sign papers that stated that she requested an abortion. Number 9, a female from LASD last week came to Ruby's cell and stated if she would just stop, they will release her. There has been a progression of aggression from the Sheriff's Department, along with retaliation, intimidation, coercion, verbal harassment, sexual harassment, a lack of medical care, and sexual assaults from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department and their deputies. This is not an anomaly. This is a sick culture that helps foster a lack of accountability and transparency with those who are committing criminal acts inside our county jails every day. This department is full of, yes, sheriff deputy gangs. The deputy gangs are the ones that are the rapists and the child molesters. So today I would ask you, what are you going to do about this? Thank you.
Thank you.
Jacqueline Ventures, followed by Valerie Vargas, followed by Stephen Luna.
Good morning. First, I want to say thank you to all the commissioners. You guys are doing an awesome job. I want to say I'm glad that Gascon wasn't recalled, because from what I'm seeing, he's helping us. You know, he was part of the law enforcement and he's seen a lot of the corruption. I have left a package back there for you guys that 2011, the same year that my son was shot 5 times in the back, it was another young man. And based on the deputy's testimony, that's all they had. This young man was sentenced to 39 years. Gascon has his case now, and they're going to release this man after 12 years because they found that this deputy lied. Now it's time to hold them accountable. You know, it's like they committing crimes. This is sexual crime, murder, attempted murder. So what is the accountability for these deputies now that, you know, some of this stuff is being exposed? And it's hurtful to see chiefs, captains, deputies up here sharing their stories for many, many years that they have been victims of the same corruption that the citizens out on the street are receiving. We gotta stop. We gotta stop. I'm praying for justice. I've been on a journey for justice. You guys been seeing my face. My son's case is now in Gascon's office. And I'm praying him home after they told me I couldn't do anything. It has been a cover-up from the beginning. And what I witnessed, I hope nobody else have to go through this. But coming to these meetings, I'm seeing other people cry out for help, which I've been crying out for help. But it shouldn't take 12 years for us to get help when they know that these things exist in these apartments. It's very hurtful and heartbreaking. You know, to see these families that's been experiencing these difficulties, not having funds to get attorneys, not being able to address an issue in a timely manner to where our loved ones could come home. But we're hoping this change. Thank you.
Valerie Vargas, followed by Stephanie Lunes, followed by Frankie Carrillo.
Good morning. My name is Valerie Vargas. I am the surviving family of Anthony Vargas. His birthday was July 27th, and we recently commemorated his 4-year anniversary on the 12th. He would have been 25 this year. We spent the past 4 years fighting and surviving the retaliation of the East Los Angeles Sheriff's Department at the cause of their deputy gang brutality. It's interesting sitting here listening to, you know, these testimonies. I would just like to see more probing into the people who are actually testifying, because it seems like they're a little bit more reluctant to talk about things. And I get it, I get the legalities, but it's just surreal. I just wanted to tell you, it's been 4 years since we've been fighting the deputy gangs, and especially at the East Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. And I just want to say happy birthday to Anthony. That's it.
Thank you. Stephanie Luna, followed by Frankie Carrillo, followed by our last speaker, Douglas Jessup.
Hello everyone, my name is Stephanie Luna. I'm also a surviving family of Anthony Vargas. I first want to come up and thank this commission for continuing and being, you know, so consistent with really holding not just Alex Villanueva, but holding the entire Sheriff's Department accountable. It has been 4 years since we've seen anything like this happen, so it definitely is surreal being in this room. You know, hearing the witnesses testifying, I think that one thing has been really consistent throughout all of their testimonies, and it's the fact that regardless of whatever policies are being put into place with the current leadership that's withholding the Sheriff's Department right now, it doesn't matter what policies put into place if you have a leader that's not willing to follow them himself. He's actively enabling every deputy in his department to not follow them as well. You know, my family has endured countless harassment, bouts of intimidation that comes in various forms. It's not just them, driving in front of our home. It's not just them stalking us on social media. It's not just them showing up at Anthony's anniversaries, his tree memorials. It definitely comes in different forms. Much like what the deputies are facing, there's active families facing the exact same thing. I would ask you all to please look into the incident that was spoken by Ms. Infante that's happening in the Linwood jail. I think that's definitely very concerning, because while we know deputy gangs are thriving in the streets, they're also thriving while behind bars. And I would just urge the commission to, really look into that and make sure something is done to help the individual that's suffering in there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Frankie Carrillo, followed by Douglas Jessup.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Frankie Carrillo. I'd like to begin by just thanking you for the work you guys are doing. 11 years ago, I said, not too far from where I'm standing right now, after being exonerated here in California for a crime I didn't commit, I'd spent 20 years of my life in prison from the age of 16 to 37. And it was discovered during that exoneration that the Linwood Sheriff's Department, specifically, or the LA County Sheriff's Department, substation of Linwood, more specifically the Vikings, were involved in framing me. They coerced young boys. I was a young boy myself, but they coerced other young boys to lie against me. They abused their power and their authority to make sure that the conviction was what they wanted. I am here today I've been watching you guys, but I want to come here and get the sense of the room. And I think what I and the community at large has been hoping for was for good people, courageous people to come together and expose what's being exposed here. I thank the Office of Inspector General, obviously, and everyone who's involved, because it takes a village, and at this point, I think it's more than just a village that we've gathered. And I think I hear the pain in other people's voices who are testifying, and it's a collective voice. And the fact that people such as yourselves have joined in on that fight for a systemic change. Obviously, there's a name that we can focus on, an individual person, but a systemic change that we're requesting. And so I thank you.
Thank you.
Douglas Jessup. He is our last speaker.
Hey, Subcommission. So my name's Douglas S. Jessup. Also, I was unlawfully incarcerated on Martin Luther King Day 2016. Picked up by the sheriff, thrown in jail, and subsequently sentenced to a 5-year prison term. In that time frame, I became the prison law clerk and faced an extreme amount of retaliation. I had to file multiple appeals against prison guards to get them removed, helped other inmates face this corruption as well. So everything you guys are talking about, I'm very familiar with. Once I was out, I was rendered homeless, immediately started facing the same exact treatment by the sheriffs. It went into hyper-move in Alexville in the way we got into office. What would happen is anywhere that I went, whether it was a medical facility, anything that ran my name, you would find sheriffs coming in droves, right? What that did is it created a hyper-vigilance around me that I was some sort of dangerous individual, so nobody would actually program with me. They've infiltrated my school. When I go to school, they'll like come up in droves and things of that nature. I faced every single retaliation that I was facing in prison while I was fighting for my innocence. So for me, actually going through this experience and coming out here and sharing it, it's a major risk for me, right? To come up here and talk about it, because I've seen how this works. When we talk about the Anthony Vargases, when we talk about all the individuals that are getting killed, there's a process on how that happened and how that occurs, right? There's so many different individuals that I face that I don't even know that would have it in their mind made up already, because they are not aware that they're programming with informants. But I am. Right, I was a prison law clerk, and I filed my case in the California Supreme Court, and subsequently I won on an appeal. The reason why I'm coming forward and bringing this up is because people of color have been abused and exploited for far too long. Far too long. Individuals that are pretty much of color, we need to stop pointing the finger at them and look at the people that really are accountable. The sheriffs here are as corrupt as it gets because they use this system like their own personal mafia. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that concludes. Yeah. I think that concludes the public comment. And our Inspector General is here. We heard some comments about a person who is detained in the Linwood Jail, Ruby Beltran. And I was just wondering if your office could look into that.
We will.
Thank you. Brian, our executive director, is there anything we need to say? We don't have the date and facility picked for our next special hearing. I'm going to try to take care of that sometime today, and we can announce it after I speak with Mr. Deixler.
Right. We don't. I did want to announce that our September regular COC meeting will be moved by a week because many of us will be at the Civilian Oversight Conference. So our meeting will be on September 22nd rather than September 15th.
Okay, and is that a virtual meeting or a regular meeting?
Yes, it'll be a virtual meeting.
So we'll have our regular meeting, but I expect we're going to have 6 special hearings on deputy gangs. So for those who follow these proceedings, as soon as we have a date and a location, we will announce it for your planning purposes. With that said, I think we can adjourn this meeting. Some of the testimony and the public comments were quite sobering. It looks like we have still a lot of work to do. Thank you.